What's going on, Button Mashers? I'm Mr. Gamer, and here I am interviewing Helen McCarthy. So, how are you enjoying Anime Central so far?
Oh, I'm enjoying Anime Central so much. I love coming to this convention. I love Chicago. It's a fantastic city. And the energy of this convention is just so nice and so positive.
So, have you been to other conventions here in Chicago as well?
No, only Anime Central. This is my only, except for G-Fest.
Okay.
20 years ago, we came up to G-Fest, the Godzilla convention, because my other half is Godzilla crazy. He just adores the big grey guy. So that was our first time in Chicago. That was before I came to ASEN. And in fact, when we were invited back to ASEN, I said, fantastic, we're going back to Godzilla City, because that's how I always think of Chicago.
All right. So you had mentioned the energy at ASEN. Like, what's the thing that you love the most about Anime Central?
I think it's the fact that it's a really good mix of having full-on, let your hair down fun with people that love the same things that you love, which is always great, and having a chance to learn more about it and meet the people who are connected to making it or studying it like I do. So it's a mix of a really great party and the best ever anime boarding school.
Anime boarding school. I can definitely tell that because you walk in and it's just a crash course of like everything, and it's just boom right then and there. People, you will definitely get educated on anything that you possibly have a question for.
Absolutely. So it's kind of anime Hogwarts.
Anime Hogwarts. All right, then I have to remember that one. Okay, so with manga itself, how would you best if someone were to ask you, okay, how would I best describe it to someone? And I only say that because often enough you get people who are, asking a lot of questions, because typically you can get significantly more detailed with it. So what would you say, like, for you personally, like, what drew you in as far as, like, this is what I want to be doing?
Well, I've always been interested in the history of things, in how things develop. I think we learn a lot from history. Mm-hmm. And when I met my other half, he had just come back from a post-college trip to the Spanish island of Mallorca. Mm-hmm. Now, Spain has had anime on TV for many, many years, and manga in translation for many, many years. And this was in 1981. Okay. Steve brought back a huge stack of Go Nagai manga in Spanish, because Mazinger Z was enormous over there. And I looked at this, and I didn't read any Spanish, but I could read the story just by looking at the images. And he said, oh, there are some films as well, there's animation, but we couldn't get any because Spain was on a different country code to us for video. So I got really interested in this stuff, and I started looking around and looking out and wanted to get information, and there was no book on it, which is how I started my career. But if I were telling somebody what I love about manga, I think it would be that manga, to me, is much more inclusive than mainstream Western comics.
Much more inclusive?
Yeah, it's inclusive of women. You get a huge number of women who are leading comics.
Oh, yes.
It's also inclusive of minorities, simply because to the Japanese, all skin colors that are not Asian are pretty freaky. So manga and anime both feature characters from what would look to us like minority backgrounds, but to the Japanese are just an interesting way to draw people. But the other thing is that manga is inclusive of all human experience. Manga's not just about superheroes. Manga's not just about high school kids. Manga's not just about teens. There are manga stories about every kind of human being. There's a long tradition of manga set in prison. Stories of guys' life in prison and women's life in prison and how they cope with it. There's a long tradition of manga about older women. The most heartbreaking manga I know at the minute is The Old Man and His Cat.
Old Man and His Cat.
It's not been translated yet, but it's the story of two people who are complete misfits. An old guy who's just been widowed and is desperately lonely and longing for companionship after his beloved wife has left the world, and a cat who is really, really ugly and who keeps getting left behind in, I can't remember if it's a pet store or a shelter, but in the shelter because nobody wants him, and who just wants to have a home. And these two find each other, and you just tear up looking at it. It's just beautiful.
I'm actually tearing up a little bit thinking about it, like, oh.
You see, that's manga. Would you get that in a Western comic? You would not.
No, and I could definitely see that because, I mean, a lot of things are just kind of like given to you with animation, just like boom, here it is. But there are some times where you can interpret it a little bit yourself when it's just like right there in front of you, and like I could definitely like making the whole like picture in my head of this man and this cat, and I'm just like, okay, yes, I'm definitely feeling it. Like where you are right now with your career. If you had the capability to go back, could you see yourself doing anything different? Like, if I could go back and I wasn't going to do this, I would try to do X.
Well, in fact, I have until last year always had a day job because you don't make that much money as a writer unless you're wildly successful. So I've never made enough to live on as a writer. But now I've got to a stage where I don't need a day job. But I've done an amazing range of things. I've been a theatrical costumer. I've been a recreation costumer. I've made historically accurate historic costumes. I have done librarian work. I've done research work. I've worked in community relations. I've worked on a major engineering project. All sorts of stuff. Because it's like, I mean, people think that the gig economy is a new thing, but for the last 50 years, really, people have needed to hustle. Not everybody's been in a secure job. Not everybody's been able to get the job they want. So you just do whatever you can do to make ends meet. If I were looking at a career now and somebody was saying to me, I want your job, what should I do? I would say, first of all, it would be a very great advantage to you to learn Japanese, but it's no longer necessary because so much material is available in translation. Second of all, go and get a really good degree in a subject related to anime or manga, but not exclusively anime or manga, so that you can do both anime and manga studies and literature or anthropology or something else. C, go to Japan. You must go to Japan. Go and live there, go and work there, go and study there. There are many opportunities. But most of all, just write. Write what you think, write what you feel, write reflectively and wisely, study your audience, and just do it. Just go out there and do it. That's the best thing.
So given what you know right now, what would be the thing that you would try to do differently? Like, you would still go and you would still do manga, but you would do maybe these one or two things differently.
I think if I were doing it now, it would be much easier to make connections and make relations. When I started studying anime and manga, there was no anime and manga market in Britain, and there was only a tiny one in America. So I spent the first 10 years of my research work convincing people it was actually worth having a conversation about Japanese popular culture at all. Mm-hmm. Now I could save that 10 years, just make the connection straight off the bat and get on with it, and that would be wonderful.
You had mentioned the how manga is inclusive. What would you say would be that? Would you say that to be your favorite part of being in this industry?
It's certainly my favorite part of the industry. As a woman and as a feminist, I've got absolutely no time for exclusion. I've had it happen to me too often. I'm Irish by ancestry, and when I grew up in a small town near Liverpool, boarding houses in the city used to have signs in the window that said no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. And my mother would always say, always remember, they list us under dogs, so you don't need to feel you can ever patronize anybody. And that was quite an education. I'm privileged in that I'm white. I can pass for non-Irish if I don't fess up to it. But it really made me realize that judging people just on a label, an arbitrary label or an appearance, was completely the wrong thing to do. And that's the thing that I think I love most about the anime and manga community. There are pockets of people who are very backward, but for the most part, it's a really inclusive community. You look around here, everybody's doing their thing, everybody's happy, but nobody's trying to stop anybody else doing their thing. So that level of acceptance and respect is something that I would love to see in the wide world. I think anime could give that to the world.
I really like the approach that you said, that like everyone's doing their own thing, but they're not stopping anybody else from doing theirs. Like, yes, like you can have yours, I can have mine, and then we're all good. And it's just and it's just okay. You having yours is fine, me having mine is fine. I don't need to take from you, you don't need to take from me. I gotta say that is that is significantly impactful, and it would be nice if we could all collectively share that, really, really, truly share that message. So I want to thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your words. Hopefully it's going to be giving people a lot of things to think about. So thank you.
That is so much my pleasure. I mean, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk to your audience. And I hope that this piece is going to help spread that message, because if we are anything, we are people who've looked across the world at a totally different nation, a totally different culture, and said they have something so beautiful that we want to share it. So now it's our job to share that with the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much.